Now, Dr. Balchandra Mungekar.
Sir, thank you very much for your kind permission to participate in this important bill. I stand to support the bill, and after going through the contents, I think it is extremely important, and I am very happy that the minister has introduced this bill. Sir, 11 5-year plan, which was prepared during UPA 1, was historic in several ways, more ways than one. I don't want to mention the salient features of the 11 5-year plan. But one important thing that took place during 11th plan was the expansion of higher and technical education in the country. In 2006 and 7, the gross enrollment ratio in India was hardly 11.5 or 12%. It means the college going group students, hardly 12% were registering themselves in the college and higher education. By that time, China was having nearly 25%. Developing countries altogether, they were having around 30%. Industrialized country, they were having nearly 75 to 80%. And when we were wanting to meet the challenge of the 21st century and provide the skilled manpower, highly technically well equipped, the gross enrollment ratio in the higher education, namely at 12%, was abysmally low and totally disappointing. It was in this context, then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, under his own initiative, took upon himself and initiated the plan of expansion of higher education system in the country. At that time, it was decided to establish 15 central universities, 15 world-class universities, and 20 triple ITs. 370 colleges in the backward districts in the country out of 625 then, where the gross enrollment ratio was less than 12%. Because there was great unevenness even in the gross enrollment ratios. For example, advanced states such as Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Gujarat, they were having above national average, while Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Orissa, they were having lower than 12%. Men were having more than women. And the backward classes, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes, they were having still lower than the gross enrollment ratio average 12%. Now, this plan of expansion of higher and technical education, where these 20 triple ITs were proposed to be formed, and they were formed, and these 4 are out of this 20. And I'm extremely happy that out of these existing 20 triple IT institutes, 4 are proposed to be upgraded, and they are to be made centers of excellence. Sir, my memory goes back to, and I pay tribute to late Shri Rajiv Gandhi. Because I remember when I was doing my college years, in the early 1960s, when small automatic addition machine was introduced in LIC, people were resisting that. Because we were thinking that these facet machines will be replacing the manpower, and it will create some sort of unemployment. In course of time, we realized that without going to technology and higher levels of technology, it is impossible for the country to develop at a much higher rate. That's why appropriately, late Shri Rajiv Gandhi decided, while having a dream of leading the country to the 21st century, that this entire communication and information technology era began with late Shri Rajiv Gandhi. I don't remember, but I think in 1998, when I first talked to my wife from remote district village Sawantwadi to Mumbai by paying 1 rupee on this, I wanted that IPC, that ISD,
You would not have talked to your wife.
No, no, I talk to wife only. There is no doubt about it. Why do you doubt everywhere? Then I thought that I understood that it was still that because earlier what we are doing was it was possible not possible even to talk because communication other than the telephone and we were to wait indefinite amount of time. Now after paying my tribute to Shri late Rajiv Gandhi, I also appreciate the minister that out of these four these IITs, one is named after Shri Atal Bihari Ji Vajpayee. Vice Chairman, sir, we all know that certain personalities transcend the political boundaries. And one among them, during the recent time, is obviously Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Country can hardly produce many Atal Bihari Vajpayees. And we don't get Vajpayees every now and then. That's why I appreciate that this Gwalior IIT is being named after Shri Atal Bihari Ji Vajpayee. Now this bill and the provisions of the bill, they are dealing with largely the logistics. And since I was deeply involved in framing the rules and the regulation as a member of the Planning Commission, I think all of them, they're appropriate. They are just in conformity with the regulation, management of the triple ITs, and in order to subserve the purpose of dissemination of knowledge, spread of knowledge, restoring the knowledge, and creating highly sophisticated skilled manpower. Sir, we have been talking time and again our performance with reference to China. Unfortunately, China, for them, they did not give sufficient importance to English. And for one reason or the other, I'm not going into the logistics of that, but we kept English at important place and we could get the results and the fruits of introducing this IT education, triple IT education, and English help a lot. Now, I would like to raise certain general issues. One issue is, and this point has been agitating me since I joined the Rajya Sabha in May 2010. We are talking of center of excellence. What exactly do we mean by center of excellence? To the best of my knowledge, I'm open for correction. The government of India or the HRD ministry or the Planning Commission, to the best of my knowledge, after having worked in the Planning Commission for 5 years and 5 years as Vice Chancellor, I'm open for correction. Till today, we haven't decided the definite tangible norms of centers of excellence. We have been talking about global standards. Now, what are the global standards we are talking about? Oxford, Cambridge, there is competition between them to go to the global standards. The global standard from whose point of view? Global standards among Asian countries, global standard within the developing countries, global standard vis-a-vis developing countries, vis-a-vis the developed countries. These are the mystic concepts. That's why I'm not criticizing the ministry. I know that they have taken place during 6 months before. My only point is that the country as a whole, academic community, okay, rather than going to medieval India, it is necessary to decide the objective standards of global standards and the objective norms of centers of excellence. By merely naming or giving or upgrading any particular institute as a center of excellence does not make it center of excellence. For example, please bear with me, sir, and I seek the indulgence of the House. Each one of us, including the top officials and executives of the country, we are lamenting that not a single university in India is coming in 500 list, coming in 600 universities, coming in even 200 universities. I mean, it is highly undesirable to expect this in view of the facts. I have raised the question, and Honorable Minister is here. At this moment of time, minimum 1/4 of the state universities are today without regular Vice Chancellor. 50% of the universities in the country for the problems known to the state governments and the central government, do not have even 50% regular staff. Central university problem is still, even in the pathetic conditions which are directly functioning under our nose. What I mean is, this should not be taken as a criticism. This should not be taken as an attempt on my part, because I was part and parcel of the system, to rectify the system. That's why by merely calling centers of excellence and upgrading them will not make a particular institute centers of excellence. Sir, sometimes we made regular state university as central university, regular engineer college as IIT. It is highly unbecoming. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1954 or 1955, the last year of the first 5-year plan, established 8 or 7 IITs and 7 IIMs. Even the best possible engineering college cannot become IIT, because IIT has its own culture. IIT is made over a period of time. IIT is not the matter of upgradation. That's why my point is, these centers of excellence, we have to decide exactly what are the objective criteria. The next point is, we have to take the stock of the situation, exactly what is the status of these universities or the academic institutions which presently serving centers of excellence. In what respect they are different? In what respect they are different in the sense, in the composition of their academic council, in the composition of their faculty, in the composition of their board of studies, what make them centers of excellence? In the qualification for the teaching staff, in the conducting of the examinations, in conducting the seminars, in making them more and more employability. I was shocked, sir, to know, other than the member of the HRD committee, UGC chairman had come to give the witness. And I draw attention of the Honorable Minister, they have given the vision statement of University Grant Commission established in 1956. The vision statement of University Grant Commission has nothing to do with the requirements of Indian economy today. Everything is there in the vision statement except the employability. I don't mind somebody becomes tomorrow Einstein, somebody becomes tomorrow Bertrand Russell. But basically, after spending 20-25 years in school or college, somebody must be able to live his or her own livelihood. That's why on one hand we are having the problem of unemployment. I don't mind creating knowledge for the sake of knowledge. But the knowledge also is purpose which is likely to make the person self-sufficient. For example, during last 50 years, if somebody asks me, what is the greatest achievement of India after independence? There are many. There are many. I can give one hour lecture on that, but this is not the time for that, and you will not give me the time. Neither it is relevant. The single achievement of India is to be identified. Then the abilities and the capacities that the women in this country has proved after independence. There is no parallel in this world. Okay? Now, from that point of view, making our people and younger generation self-sufficient, we are talking of demographic dividend. What exactly steps are being taken for demographic dividend? Demographic dividend doesn't depend upon age profile. Demographic dividend depends upon getting exactly equivalent employment and job opportunities to the younger generation proportionate to their aspirations. You can't have MA second class degree for clerical examination. For clerk in the country, by the way, there is nowhere in the world post of clerk. Clerk was the post invented by Britishers, like the BCom degree. Nowhere in the world there is BCom degree. There is BS degree in economics. BCom degree was introduced by imperial government just to make the audits of the East India Company. There is no nowhere in the world. Just say people say, what is your qualification? BCom. BCom means what? Accounting and auditing. Just say my point is, taking into account these requirements, minister should look into this. The last point, the basic motto of the education policy that we decided in during the 11th plan was expansion, equity, and excellence. Expansion, we are able to do to some extent. Excellence, this bill is trying to go, but the most important concept is equity. One of the greatest challenges in the field of education, in the field of job, in the field of political decision-making process, the challenge in this country is growing to the concept of equity. And according to me, we are sowing the seeds of disequilibrium in the social system. Now, so far this, I am very happy that this bill is providing for reservation for the necessary, what the disadvantaged sections of the society. Admissions. This bill is providing for the reservations. No, it is there. It is there. It is provided. No, governing body.
Please,
1
please.
minute. It is still there, I think.
Provided, provisional clause.
It is clause 8, 1, 2, 3, provided that every such institute shall be a central education institution for the purpose of the Central Education Institute Reservations in Admission Act 2006, which also was done during UPA 2000. I'm very happy about it, because the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and OBCs reservations have been provided at that time 27% reservation. But then the institutes which are having the authorities, Board of Governors, Senate, Finance Committee, Building and Works Committee, Research Council, and such other authorities as may be declared by the statutes to be authorities of the institute. In fact, I was to move the amendment to this. I want to suggest to the minister and also to this house, they must provide, that in the hope I did not make the amendment, but I hope that each one Board of Governors, Senate, there has to be some sort of reservation for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and socially and educational backward classes. I will justify this point, sir, within 2 minutes, and then I will close.
No, 35, there is some problem,
35. Subject to the provisions of the Act and statute, the ordinary answers of every institute may provide for each following matters, namely, the admission for the student to the institute.
Should not be detrimental.
No, that is following manners, namely. No, my point is, I'm raising a general point. And the general point is, unfortunately, as in 1946, Ambedkar has commented, because when minorities were claiming some share in political power, and religious communities were clamoring for monopolizing the power, at that time Ambedkar commented that, and I quote, "Unfortunately for the minorities in India, a new doctrine of nationalism has evolved. Monopolizing the whole power by the majority is called nationalism, and claim for sharing some power is called communalism." Sir, there is a distinction between the state and the society. As you very well know, there is distinction between the relations of production and forces of production. Forces of production move faster, and relations of production land behind. State is moving faster and society lags behind. Now the question is, I am very happy that in the admissions, the reservations have been provided. But then I have also known that number of education institutions where these reservations are provided, after provision of the reservation, they are not satisfactorily implemented. I can give you the list of the universities. That's why the provision for the reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and OBCs means inefficiency. This myth must be destroyed, lock, stock, and barrel. Historically, it is not proved anywhere by any evidence that reservation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and the OBCs is not the standard technical term, social and educational backward classes. There is not an element of evidence where the entry of these sections mean that there is inefficiency. 30 years ago, this was referred to women also, and now women not only entered, they excelled everywhere. That's why from that point of view, Minister, Madam, it is necessary to see and ensure that it is not only sufficient to make the provision for the reservations, but also to strictly implement the reservation policy in letter and spirit. With this, thank you very much, and I support the bill.
Thank you.